Someone you've known for years is going to buy a house and they're not going to call you. Not because you're bad at your job, but because they forgot what you do for a living. Today's guest had the exact thing happen to him. He fixed it and went from 12 million to 40 million in 2 years without going on a single listing presentation. Stay tuned. This episode of Keeping It Real is brought to you by Real Geeks. How many homes are you going to sell this year? Do you have the right tools? Is your website turning soft leads into interested buyers? Are you spending money on leads that aren't converting? Well, Real Geeks is your solution. Find out why agents across the country choose Real Geeks as their technology partner. Real Geeks was created by an agent for agents. They pride themselves on delivering a sales and marketing solution so that you can easily generate more business. Their agent websites are fast and built for lead conversion with a smooth search experience for your visitors. Real Geeks also includes an easy-to-use agent CRM. So once a lead signs up on your website, you can track their interest and have great follow-up conversations. Real Geeks is loaded with a ton of marketing tools to nurture your leads and increase brand awareness. Visit realgeeks.com/keepingitrealpod and find out why realtors come to Real Geeks to generate more business. Again, visit realgeeks.com/keepingitrealpod. And now, on to our show. Today's episode is brought to you by Corded.io. Are you looking for agents to join your brokerage or team? Now, as a real estate recruiter, I can tell you the answer is always yes. But most agents aren't looking to move right now. So how do you know who to contact? Well, what if I were to tell you there's a recruiting and retention tool powered by artificial intelligence that shows you exactly which agents in your local market are looking to leave their brokerage right now, and which agents at your own firm are also looking to leave you? Now, I've been recruiting realtors for 15 years and I've hired over 2,000 agents. I can tell you with no exaggeration, this is the tool I've been waiting for. Corded's AI looks for trends across dozens of variables for each agent in your market and shows you which agents they believe are likely to move. Not only does it do that, but Corded's AI went and visited my recruiting website and read everything I offer. So now when I'm recruiting, Corded's AI tells me exactly what to say based on that agent's needs and what my brokerage can offer. It even writes emails for me. I've never seen anything like it, and I use it every single day. Now, if you are looking to grow your brokerage, Corded.io is the best tool out there. Visit Corded.io to schedule a demo. Again, that's Corded.io. And now, onto the show. Welcome to Keeping It Real, the largest podcast made by real estate agents and for real estate agents. My name is DJ Paris. I am your guide and host through the show. And in just a moment, we're going to be bringing on our guest, Greg Roeder. Before we get to Greg, just want to quick remind everyone the best way that you can help us grow is by telling a friend. So think of another agent that doesn't yet know about Keeping It Real. Do us a favor, let them know and shoot them a link. We're everywhere podcasts are served. Also, if you could leave us a review on whatever podcast app or distribution system you are listening to us on, we would appreciate it. We follow we read all of your content or comments, and then we take action because this is for you. So let me tell you about our guest today, who I'm really, really excited about having here on the show. So Greg Roeder is a luxury real estate agent in Fort Collins, Colorado. He has more than 2 decades of active production, over 800 closings, more than 600 million in career volume. His practice holds Fort Collins luxury market records for both highest sales price and highest price per square foot. He also teaches real estate sales and marketing at Colorado State University and has spent years helping agents build businesses rooted in community, content, and a genuine relationships, I should say. Greg is also the author of the forthcoming book, Getting to a Million, Building a 7-Figure Real Estate Practice by Attracting Business You Don't Need to Compete For. So every framework in the book comes from systems Greg actively uses today in his own business, including local content, community events, and a pickleball league that has become a meaningful source of relationships and referrals. I want everybody to consider pre-ordering the book, getting on the wait list. Go to gettingtoamillion.com. We'll have a link to that in the show notes. And follow Greg on LinkedIn. Greg Roeder, Roeder. We'll have a link to his LinkedIn as well. Connect with him. Greg, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, DJ. I'm super excited to be here.
Excited to have you here. I'm excited to talk about the book, but I want to jump right into pickleball only because this is the first pickleball story I think we've told on the show, and everybody's playing pickleball now anyway. So you get first dibs, but I want to really talk about the league that you founded. So you created this pickleball league in Fort Collins, and it grew, and you grew to over 100 people who were participating. And one day, a woman who had been playing with you for months turns to a different agent who was sitting there in the group and asked her for real estate advice. So take us back to that moment. Like, what went through your head?
You know, what went through my head was that I was doing a really good job building relationships with people. I wasn't doing a very good job of branding myself, of occupying that real estate portion of their brains. And that was one of the things that prompted me to write the book that I wrote and brought me to where I am now and started taking me down this path. So we can go into as much as you want to. In the book, we talk about the 3 M's: mobilize your people. That's getting strategic gatherings going, like my pickleball league. That's also signature events, a bigger event where more people are invited and you're creating collisions between the people who are in your tribe, who might be attending your pickleball league, also your past clients, your family, your friends. There's a trust transfer that takes place at those events. So mobilize your people, and then you have to move on. As I learned at that moment that you just mentioned, you really have to move on to making content for your dream clients. So you start to occupy the real estate portion of these people's brains. And we can go into as much detail as you'd like, but yeah, that moment when that happened, I was just beating myself up on the car ride home. Here I am putting together this big pickleball tournament. I mean, the snack table was dialed in, the refreshments, everything. I mean, the scoring, days and days and days of preparation. And I had done this so many times. The fact that this person did not know I sold real estate absolutely shook me to my core, and it caused me to take a lot of action.
Yeah, thank you for that story. Thank you for the honesty there. Every single listener has had a situation where a best friend or a close friend, a family member, a person they work next to in a different career literally chooses another agent. And we've all had this happen. And oftentimes I hear from when the agent will ask, if they do ask the person who didn't choose them, and they'll say, "Oh, I just assumed you were too busy," or "I forgot that you were an agent," or "You should have told me you wanted my business." So this idea of being a secret agent is, talked about a lot. Don't be a secret agent. But I want to go back even before the pickleball league. So 20 some years earlier, your friend Jack watched you do something pretty incredible. You were with Cutco. That's a amazing knife company, by the way. I'm a huge Cutco fan. They really do have just about the best cutlery out there. And you were selling knives to people that you already knew, which is what Cutco's model at least could be for a lot of people who sell it. And your friend Jack asked you why you were cold calling strangers. And you said that question shaped your whole business. So you've already learned this lesson, but how did you end up? You already knew this, but you ended up invisible to this woman on the pickleball court. So what do you think happened or didn't happen that made her go to someone else?
Well, let me take you back a little bit because you mentioned that story, Cutco knives. I started selling Cutco knives because I was in a small town in Iowa and I wanted to get out of working in the door factory. My parents had kind of set this job up for me. I did not want that job in the door factory. So I said, Mom and Dad, I'm going to sell Cutco knives. 2 weeks in, I was cold calling people. I was just drinking Red Bull and dialing everybody I could. Almost nobody let me into their home except for one couple. In this one couple, I gave a knife presentation, a Cutco knife presentation to the Wilsons. And during the presentation, I was so nervous that there's the super shears, the super Cutco shears, and you cut through a penny. If anybody has ever seen a Cutco presentation, the person giving the presentation cuts through the penny to show how amazingly strong and sharp the super shears are. My hands were kind of shaking. I was nervous and I was cutting through this penny and I was too far on the edge of the penny and it shot off the side of these super shears like it was like a hair trigger and it zoomed past uh, Vic Wilson's head and it just nearly impaled him, missing him by a few inches, and it
Oh
just
my God.
thud landed in the paneling in their kitchen behind him. And so I was then politely ushered out of their home. And of course, it's a small town. Word spreads that Greg almost killed a guy with loose change during a knife presentation, and I'm really struggling. My friend Jack, his sister, had her graduation party. I'm at the graduation party. Jack says, "Hey man, how many knives have you sold?" I thought about lying, but I was honest. I said, "No knives. I have sold zero." He says, "Go get your knives out of your car." He pushes all these tables together, and he basically forces me to give a presentation in front of over 100 people in this garage
Wow.
in Iowa who, by the way, no one asked his sister. It was her graduation party. We just did this, and I'm looking out at the crowd, and I was nervous at first, but then I noticed that these were people I knew. These were
Right.
not people I cold called. These were people who had watched me play sports. These were people who I'd grown up with that had watched me grow up. We'd had conversations. We had a deeper connection. After the presentation, I sold like $3,900 of knives, and this was like a quarter century ago in that chain. That's when Jack said, "Why have you been selling to people you don't know?" And
Yeah.
so you fast forward all the way back to where you asked about this lady at the table, and
Yeah.
what had happened, kind of, around that same time, like it's a little while before, was that Jack, my best friend, he was diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor.
Oh,
And I started spending a lot of time with my friend and talking with him, and all of those memories got brought to the surface. And that conversation with him, why have you been selling to people you don't know? That came to the forefront, and that
yeah.
caused me to put, along with these other things, helped me, it caused me to put this whole system together so that I
Yeah.
could stop chasing people, stop calling people I don't know, and just attract business that I didn't need to compete for.
I love that story, and thank you for being vulnerable and sharing all of that with us because we all can relate to that. And what I always tell new agents in particular when they'll say, "Well, I don't want to prospect my friends because I don't really feel very competent yet." I said, "That's actually a good instinct." I said, and your friends may or may not end up working with you. But that's not really what you, if they work with you, great. But what I tell them is those are your advocates. So even if you're not comfortable working with them, you will want to work with their friends. So make sure that they know that everyone that they come in contact with, if they hear the word so and so is moving, you go, "You got to meet my friend Greg." And I always say, make those people, don't worry about whether, they might already have a realtor. That's fine. But make them your advocates. And it sort of reminds me of that story you told, where it's you have all these people who know you, they like you, they want you to succeed. And whether it was out of obligation or whatever, they bought the knives. And they're good knives too. So it's, my parents, we have a Cutco knife at home. One of our friends' sons was selling it a million years ago. And I have some Cutco knives now in my current home, but it's like the best knife ever. They really are amazing quality. But I want to talk about the invisible agent problem. I want you to help define that for me. So what is it, and how does somebody know it if they have invisible agent syndrome or not? So tell us about it.
Yeah, I think you wanna focus on when you're looking at your people out there in your market, you wanna be their agent, you don't wanna be a agent. You wanna know who your dream client is, okay? And that's a big theme of this book, really defining who your dream client is so that you can really speak to them, so that you can provide helpful information, content, and to a specific person. For me, it's people who are buying and selling $1 million plus properties in Fort Collins. People need to really decide what it is for them. As I've gotten further into my career, it's become people who are buying and selling $1 million plus properties who will defer to my advice. That last part maybe wasn't there as much early on because I just needed anybody. If it was a little bit of a tussle back and forth, and that's what it was. Today, I can be a bit more picky having the track record that I have. But you need to define who your dream client is, be their realtor, not a realtor. And going back to how you do that, it's really what kind of content do they want? How can you be helpful? And we talked about these strategic gatherings, a little bit, at least we can talk more about it later, but the pickleball, these signature events, we can go into that. You're curating who you're inviting to these things. And guess what? You're curating those people based on who your dream client is. But when you want to make sure you are not the invisible agent, I think it's first super important to define who you want to be visible to. I know there's a lot out there about AI and you want to be the agent that comes up, but I mean, do you really want to work with everybody? Do you? I mean, if you're the person that they're finding on AI, I mean, don't you think you're going to be competing on price? Don't you think you're going to be competing on your commission rate? Don't you think there's going to be plenty of times where it's just not a good fit? So many people in our industry talk about how frustrated they get when somebody tries to negotiate down their commission or when somebody doesn't follow their advice. But if you reverse engineer how they are prospecting, how the people they are working with are getting in front of them, well, they're engineering that. That's hey, everybody, that's our fault. That's our fault. If that's something you're dealing with, that's your fault. So you want to define who you want to be visible to. That's kind of really, really where it starts. Helpful content. So what does helpful content mean? For me, it starts with a standout newsletter. I told you who my dream client is, people who are buying and selling $1 million plus properties in Fort Collins. So I'm providing information like I'm segmenting out the million to 2 million, the 2 million to 3 million, the 3 million plus markets. What are the average number of showings per listing? What are the average number of showings before the property goes under contract? How many listings in each category were withdrawn over the past 30 days? How many went under contract over the past 30 days? How many sold? So this is information combined with trends. What's happening in our local economy? How's the hiring? Trends like UC Health is expanding. Our healthcare sector is growing. Trends like Broadcom just signed a deal with Apple, and that means Broadcom is hiring more high-paying jobs in the southeast part of our city. These types of story that people in these price range gravitate to, care about. So these types of things make a standout newsletter, and then I take that content in my standout newsletter and I simply break it down to very short form video content, 30 seconds or less, that I put online. To be really clear, this is for my audience. This is not for the crowd. So I think when a lot of agents hear about putting this content out there, they tense up a little bit. And I used to as well, because they're like, look, I don't want to do a little dance to a trending song on TikTok. And I don't want you to do that either. I don't want to do that. My content and what I would suggest and just humbly put out there for the listeners is find out who your dream clients are, create the standout newsletter, use the content in that standout newsletter to come up with short form 30-second videos. We go through this in my book in really great detail, so just to make it easy for everybody. But put that content out there. You will speak directly to your audience. You will start to occupy the real estate portion of their brain. When you combine that with these in-person things, the flywheel really spins, and that's when you start to attract business you don't need to compete for.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there's something to be said for the fact that most of us are doom scrolling for at least an hour or so a day on TikTok or Instagram or whatever social media platform of choice that has us hooked, and to be consistently pumping out content, video content, short form video content to be specific, like you said, is really important, because when you do see those people in person, oftentimes they'll say like, oh, I love your videos, or I really appreciate, I saw one of them and that was really helpful to me. And I know that what I heard from you is figuring out your client avatar. Who are you going after, and then modeling the content specifically to whether it's a newsletter or a short form video. It's specifically what content would a person looking to spend X amount in this area be interested in learning. So I think that is, you like you said, you reverse engineer. I also wanted to ask about the pickleball league. Just one thing: how do you fix your invisibility? And maybe it's through social media. And my answer might be that so how do you fix the invisibility problem without becoming the guy who turns pickleball night into a listing presentation, right? So is it through these sort of subtle background noise ways through social media, or are you also incorporating it into the event itself?
That's such a great question. And here's the rule: we're playing pickleball. I do not talk about business. Business is nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
Somebody asks a real estate question, of course I'll answer it. But even then, I try to keep it brief. Pickleball is about pickleball. So for your listeners, whatever your thing is, pickleball, hiking, cycling, mountain biking, cards, chess, gardening, make it about that thing. That needs to be the vibe when you're having these consistent strategic gatherings and really building these relationships. You're getting to know spouse and partners' names. You're getting to know kids' names. You're understanding these people at a much deeper level. Uh, what are their other hobbies? Where are they traveling to? What are their hopes and dreams? All of these things come to the surface when you take business out of the equation when you're doing your thing. Now, how do I make sure that what happened, after the pickleball tournament doesn't happen? Well, what I did is it is, I guess, in a way in the background, but all of these people I connect with them on social media.
Yeah.
So then they start seeing my content. They also start receiving my newsletter. And
Yeah.
it's permission based. It's not a surprise. Like, don't show up to the party uninvited, everybody. Don't be the person that sends the newsletter to somebody who has no idea it's coming. You got to let them know what it is, make sure they want to receive it, let them know when it's going to arrive in their mailbox every month. That's going to build trust.
Yeah.
But I mean, literally every single person has wanted to see it. It's interesting, right? Well, you're providing some information on the quote luxury real estate market in Fort Collins that nobody else is providing. If you listeners out there provide something that nobody else is providing and it's interesting, people will want to receive it. So I'm just suggesting in an overall theme here, I hope people are picking up on, or they will on more, is that if you can do less but better, instead of spending your time maybe going to every random chamber of commerce breakfast or networking event or doing the things that everybody else is doing, spend time being that person in your market that people will
Yeah.
want to work with, putting together this information.
I have a friend of mine who I would love for her to join our firm. She's not currently with our firm, but she told me a great story. So during the pandemic, she's a mom. She was really lonely because even though she's married and has children, but she wasn't able to get out of the house like the rest of us. And she just felt like she had lost connection with people. And so she decided that she's very active on the Facebook, the neighborhood group or neighborhood page for whatever neighborhood she lives in. And so she said, I don't have any good friends in this neighborhood, even though I've lived here forever. And I want to make more friends. I'm kind of lonely. And gosh, I mean, I can't imagine how many people feel that way even just now. And so she called around to a couple coffee shops and said, hey, I'm going to try to organize a neighborhood event. Can I do this at your coffee shop? They'll come and buy coffee and whatever. And of course, the coffee shop's thrilled for this. And she just then asked permission from the moderators of this group. Hey, I'm not selling anything. I just thought, there may be some lonely people out there like me. And we'll do a coffee meetup at, Sunday or, Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. And I was like, that is a brilliant idea. And she got 6 people to show up on her first meeting. And these were all strangers. And again, yes, working your sphere is awesome, but you can create a sphere like you've done with pickleball by doing these kind of events. And it's finding a need, making it fun, and then just going into it. So I want to talk, because you do a couple of things. You do your paddle battles, but you also do these really cool things called fire and ice events. Can you tell us a little bit about fire and ice? Because I really think this is super, super amazing.
Yeah, it's one of my signature events, and I do multiple ones, but Fire and Ice is a sauna and cold plunge event. It takes place at the lake behind my house, and there's a nice beach area there. So we've got the saunas, we've got all the different cold plunges, we've got food and drinks. My wife does an amazing job of putting together like this cucumber infused water, and we get sandwiches and gluten-free sandwiches. Everything's set up. Paddle boards are at the beach so the kids can enjoy the lake. They're exploring in the nearby trees. It's phenomenal. So it's important to point out that this is centered on something that I love. It's authentic to me.
Yeah.
Health, wellness, sauna, cold plunge. Question for somebody to ask themselves if they're looking at doing these things is, what would I do even if it would never create any business? That's
Yeah.
really a good place to start. For me, it's that Fire and Ice event. It's just a really great way to bring all these people together. Everybody I play pickleball with, my past clients, my current clients, my family, my friends, create these collisions. As you might imagine, my name comes up, and agents out there, yours will too, when you do this, because people are meeting each other. They're going to talk about the common denominator, the person that connected them. Your
Yeah.
name comes up, and generally these are people that are going to say, they all are going to say nice things about me, which is very, very helpful for the trust transfer that ensues and takes place. And so all of a sudden your network becomes stronger once that trust transfer takes place. And I think, everyone will find, like I found, that if you perform and do this, a lot of referrals, great referrals, come out of these events.
Yeah, I love that. And these events, for people that are thinking, well, these sound expensive, they don't have to be expensive. One of the best events I ever attended that a realtor put together, which again, I thought this was such a brilliant idea, probably for a different reason than she might have even recognized, which she was a friend of mine, a realtor, and I just wanted to support her. And she goes, "Hey, we're going to be down the street from where you live, volunteering at anti-cruelty for it's a pet organization." And I was like, "Oh, I'm there, no problem." And so we just did 2 hours worth of volunteering. And I don't know that it cost her anything, but maybe the pizza that she had showed up. But I thought what I love about that, for those of us that maybe don't have budgets to really create amazing events yet, you can do things like this. And what I thought was so cool about volunteering was everybody says they want to volunteer more, but people are usually too busy to do it, or they just don't ever do it. And so this gives people a reason to do the thing that they think they should do. And I love this. It's whatever you're passionate about, step into it and keep and just do it full force. So
Yeah.
you do pickleball, you paddle battles, fire and ice. Um, you
Real
know,
quick, DJ, on the expense thing, I think it's important to point out that you just said it doesn't have to be expensive. A quick pointer for everybody there, it doesn't have to be expensive at all. I think the word is, where can you collaborate? So
yeah,
my Fire and Ice events, there's a company called Foundry Saunas. We video these events. We tell
yep,
Foundry Saunas that we'll put this out on social media, and of course, they want to get introduced to my network. So we get a great deal on the saunas. They set up the cold plunges. There are ways to collaborate. Other agents that I've helped do this, they'll get a title company or a lender to pitch in, with the
yep,
rule that there is no banners, there is no marketing. You're doing this because you want to contribute to what this event is, which there's no business. It's not it would totally ruin it if they're handing out their cards for mortgage lending or closing services. But there are ways
right.
to collaborate. Just get creative and do that. We spend almost nothing on these events.
It's amazing. I love that. And so here's I got a tougher question for you. So you've been doing these events for years now, and is there an easy way for you to trace the closings back to either the league or these events you do? So in other words, what does it look like in terms of numbers? And how long did it take before the first number started showing up? Right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a hard question at all, and I appreciate you asking, because when I talk about this, it's hard for me to believe it almost. 2023, I did a little over 12 million in volume. That's the first year I started doing this. And by 2024, I had it pretty well dialed in. That was the first year that I felt like I had it dialed in. I did 25 million. And then in 2025, I did 40 million.
Oof.
In our
What is
industry,
that
people
is an
talk about
incredible
this.
jump, by the way.
Yeah, it's just it was in I didn't go on a listing presentation, it's been since November of 2023 since I've been on a listing presentation because this really
Yeah.
does attract business that you don't need to compete for. That is the growth, and 100% of the business has been from these things that we're talking about. I have not done any traditional advertising at all.
It's incredible. And so yes, we know it works, and it works because this is still a relationship business. I do a lot of AI training for realtors, and there are a lot of realtors, and this is a debatable topic, and I certainly am not the sage person to know exactly what's going to happen here in the future. But my suspicion is that our experience as agents will not be that relevant in the coming years because AI will solve for experience. It eventually will, but and it'll obviously solve, it already solves for data and all sorts of advice. And I think it'll solve for experience eventually too, although right now experience is still super important if as an agent. But what I think it can never, or hopefully hopefully can never solve for is relationships. And so this is still buying, whether it's a luxury property or a non-luxury property, it is still somebody's a massive financial purchase, possibly their biggest, or a sale, maybe their biggest financial sell. This is a big emotional decision that requires human interaction because of the emotions involved, the stress involved, the anxiety, and we just want a human on the other end of the deal. So I think what you're doing and talking about is really relationship building more than anything. You're doing fun things that people appreciate, and the business just kind of naturally flows because you're a genuine guy doing genuine things, and everybody knows that. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I think so. And I am. It's interesting. I think the people who do business the way their grandparents did business are going to really win big, are really winning big
Yeah.
now, but are going to disproportionately win big over the coming years. I think people are getting burnt out on screens, this 24/7 culture. I think there's a movement, a trend that's really picking up steam, going more towards analog. Look, people just don't want to be funneled. They don't want to be funneled. They want to be seen, heard, cared for. Eh, They want you to know them. And oh, by the way, that's a better way to be qualified to help them when you really know them. So people triple down on these things. I think it puts them in a position to not only have more business success, but maybe more importantly, to have a more fulfilling life and to pour into other people and give them a more fulfilling life and just create more and more space for human connection to happen and for everybody to be happier.
There's a great story. I think it's from the 70s. I think it's the 70s, maybe the 80s, where the guy who sold the most number of cars in the country, it's a famous story. He did it all through personal notes, which is such a funny idea because it's not a funny idea. It's a brilliant idea, but it takes some elbow grease to do that. It's certainly not an easy lift. But I mean, I think about it even now. When I get a personal note from somebody, a handwritten personal note, which is maybe, I forget, take the holidays out, my birthday out. I'm just, in general, like, hey, thank you so much for X, Y, or Z. I want to help that person. I want to do something for that person. It is so rare. Maybe I get one or two a year, but again, it's doing these things, like you said, like your grandparents did. What are the your reputation is everything. So how do you continue to develop and deepen these relationships? And it's not through the mass happy birthday text, unless it's a personalized happy birthday text that you did yourself. And same thing with newsletters. Like the newsletter has to be really dialed in to the audience, or else you're just another newsletter. And I totally agree with that. So I want to talk about making content for your dream clients. So I'm really excited about this because You say that content for your dream clients is what turns being liked into being the obvious choice. So I
Mhm.
want you to be really specific here. So, what kind of content actually does that job?
The newsletter's where you start. The newsletter's where you start. It needs to be targeted. I think every newsletter that people see out there, for the most part, is kind of the same. Brokers think that they can send out the company-produced newsletter that has kind of that headshot in the upper right-hand corner, the "Trust me, I have great hair" headshot, and they think that's going to differentiate them. It
Right.
doesn't. The median sale price in your market does not help them make a real estate decision. Sending out the same thing that everybody else is sending does not help you stand out in a crowded market of real estate agents. So first, you need to stand out with a niche. And somebody might say, "Well, I don't have a niche. I want to make sure I appeal to everybody." Well, if you want to make sure you appeal to everybody, then this isn't for you. You will not achieve what we're talking about here. You need to be known for something. And that might be a geographical area, that might be a price point, that might be some combination of both. But you need to be known for something and you need to focus on that in your newsletter. And then you need to ask yourself, what information can I provide in this niche that nobody else in the market's providing? And you need to provide it. Getting into the very specific things, I think it needs to be clean. You got to have the same design. You got to stay consistent, not too many colors. It's got to be a 3-minute read or less. People are busy. It has got to arrive in people's inboxes with their permission. They have to know it's coming. They have to know what day it's coming. They have to know what time it's coming. If you can start to execute on that, you get 3, 4, 6, 12 months down the road. Watch what happens. You're building trust with people at scale, especially if you take that content and you start parsing it into 30-second videos. We can go into the video thing too. I think it's important for a lot of people to have a structure there, the hook, story, tip, getting their attention, having a story, a quick tip, getting in the rhythm of understanding how to do that quickly. We talk about that in the book, starting from zero, like I did. If you can do both of those things, send out that newsletter consistently, targeted to the people that you really want to speak to, that you really want to attract, and you can get those videos going. You're really sharing information that you would share over a beer, right? Or over a coffee appointment. But instead of having, I don't know, 12 coffee appointments and having the shakes because you're just caffeinated into oblivion, you are reaching thousands of people and building trust at scale. And that's how you really achieve these results if you want to go from 12 million to 25 to 40.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. I want to also let's talk about short form video
Mhm.
content. What type of content do you find is most appreciated by your audience?
The stuff that is very in two categories. One, targeted towards my dream client. Look, people get really caught up in how many views something gets, and I understand that we all like the vanity metrics, but the way the algorithm works now is it's getting it in front of the people who are interested in what you have to say. So if you want views, then definitely just do the dance to whatever music
Yeah.
is trending on TikTok. That will get you the views. If you want clients, then you need to provide valuable information. You need to provide it in short form and quickly. And it's got to be something that's interesting. And if you just focus on who your dream client is and have a niche, it's going to make it a lot easier for that to happen consistently. So that's a really big part of it. Just doing that consistently, attracting these people. Uh, I think if you're going, not worrying about vanity metrics is huge. Knowing who you're serving, really being solid on that, serving them consistently with a consistent newsletter, with consistently posting in these ways. In the book, we also get into the third M, which is to really multiply your impact, and that's where you
Yep.
bring in somebody who has a much lower dollar per hour than you have and is much better at doing these back of house things, posting videos, editing things. and having this all, including your coordinating your events, by the way, having it all on autopilot, on set it and forget it, so that you, the agent, can be out there doing what you do best, which is meeting with people, building relationships, listing houses, negotiations, closings. That's where your high dollar per hour is. You have to get all of this going in the background. And again, there are really inexpensive ways to do that. It's about starting small and going big. So many people start big and go small. That's our natural tendency. But start small and go big. Get that help and get it early.
How often are you posting short form video? What's your content calendar look like?
Weekly, and I'll go back to that part really, because I said there were two areas, and I talked
Yeah.
about the educational stuff. Let's talk about the second one. That is the personal side. The
Yep.
personal side is, well, this isn't buying health insurance, life insurance. This isn't even getting a loan. This is buying a house. It's kind of an intimate relationship with these people we're working with, right? It's lots of conversations. It might be in the car together. It's We're in this thing together, right? So people, whether they state this out loud or not, they want somebody they feel comfortable with. They want to know who you are. So the second type of video is like just personal stuff. Like I post content with my family. I post content of, me doing something fun, of going to Cheyenne Frontier Days to watch country music with my wife a few weeks ago. That's the type of stuff that I want to show them who I am, what I'm about. I'm at my kid's swim meet. I'm coaching his little league team. I just want to share who I am and what I'm about. That's the second type of content. When you do that with the first and you do it consistently, and by consistently, you asked how often, weekly. You got to have a weekly calendar. It doesn't have to be every day, but I think you get at least a couple pieces of content out there every week just to somewhat stay in front of people. I know there's some people out there that, hey, multiple pieces of content a day. I don't know. How do you want to be treated? If somebody is blasting you with multiple pieces of content every day, would that appeal to you? If it would, then maybe I stand corrected, but I don't think that's necessary. I think there's a way to get a couple pieces of short form content out there every single week. And I think that's really good. And that builds on itself over time. And there's a way to systematize that where you are spending like an hour putting of your own time. Again, you're having a little bit of help here, limited basis, start small, go big with that. But you're spending an hour of your time. That's all I spend putting this together each month in order to have multiple 2, 3 pieces of content going out every single week in short form.
Yeah, I want to get into this multiplying your impact because this is where the magic really happens. And you had said that the most damaging thing you ever absorbed was that success meant you had to be available 24 hours a day to your clients. So when did this break for you and what did it cost you before it broke?
It almost cost me everything. I think I look around this industry and I see so many agents, and whether they want to acknowledge it or not, it has cost them everything. The time with your kids, you can't get it back.
Yeah.
That silent creeping regret, you're going to wear that around like a heavy weighted vest the rest of your life. You only have one shot at this. If you have a family, who have kids, you only have one shot at it. Same with spouses. It's never one big thing. It's a drift. It's a
Yeah.
drift. I mean, how many agents have we seen that drift takes place? Well, I know I have to index really hard into my career right now and do this, and I gotta go show the properties. I gotta work around the clock. I'll swing back to date night, maybe in Q2, Q3, Q4. It doesn't happen. And then one day, we know what happens next. We've seen this in our industry. I don't have the stats. I just know what I see. Everybody listening to this can see the same thing. A lot of agents are burnt out, miserable, divorced, and don't have great relationships with their kids. I don't know if that sounds harsh, but I think that's true. I wish it wasn't, but it's true. And yeah, it almost cost me all of those things. It almost before I just started doing this differently. Am I perfect now? No, but I think in any industry, in any business, there's going to be busy days, busy weeks, but it's 180 degrees different than it was.
And what changes did you make so that you weren't burning the candle on both ends?
Yeah, specifically, really just leaning into, okay, instead of going to every meeting, I used to go to every single, if there was a Chamber of Commerce event, if there was, I mean, you name it. anything I was invited to, like those random fundraisers for all of these different things. It's not that they serve a great purpose. They're all great, but what's your purpose? What are you trying to do? Who are you trying to work with? Who are you trying to meet? I didn't ask myself any of those questions. It was just yes to everything. What's that Jim Carrey movie from way long ago? Yes Man. He would just say he'd say yes, and in the movie everything turns out great for him. In real life, it doesn't work like that. If you say yes to everything, you're stretched extremely thin. You don't have the time for the things that matter most. So I started spending time, okay, I'm not gonna go to all these random things. I'm gonna spend time putting together this newsletter. I'm not going to maybe do this ride along to see these, with all the other brokers, and there's all the, the coffee, the water cooler talk that takes place. And again, not that there isn't some benefit there. I don't want people to get me wrong. There is some benefit in all of these things, but where is the most benefit? I started doing fewer things, spending time putting together my newsletter, spending time putting together my paddle battles league and really connecting with the people in that league, spending time doing the short form video content. I started spending my time doing these things and really focusing on who I was being instead of what I was doing. And I was being the expert in my market that cared about creating space for other people I wanted to be around to enjoy things together that we all enjoy doing. I cared about being the expert that could give them information on my niche in my market that nobody else could give them. I cared about being this person, and I put my time and my energy into that instead of doing the things that everybody else was doing. So far fewer networking events, far, far, far fewer coffee meetings. Uh, it really changed to a world where all of a sudden my time I'm calling people back. I'm not even actively calling people because it's sort of attracting all of these people that want to transact.
And you've also built a really great team around you to assist with some of the day to day stuff that you either don't have time to do, or maybe you're not particularly as skilled at as you want to be, or you just don't like doing. I know your wife, Sarah, runs marketing. You've got other broker associates on the team. Tell me, like, what have you been able to take off of your plate, and what is never going to get off your plate? What is like this is what I love and I do best?
Yeah, I guess I can start with this is what I love and what I do best, and that's working with people that want to buy a really nice property in Fort Collins. I've been here for over 20 years now. I've recruited my entire family tree here. I just know this market. I'm intimately involved with this market and these fun, exciting properties, helping people buy and sell those. I just absolutely love doing. Now, slowly, more recently here, I've brought some other agents on to the team, and they really operate independently, but they are there to help me with things when I need help, and they're very happy to do that, and we work out a split that's unique to the situation whenever that situation comes along. But it gives me more bandwidth. If somebody, if three different people want to see properties in an afternoon, I can only serve so many. So it gives me some bandwidth to bring in those extremely qualified professionals who are great whenever I need to bring them in to help me to make sure everybody feels like they're just getting super attentive service at all times. That's really the structure. It's a loose team structure. They have their independent businesses, they're rolling, and luckily with what I've been able to create now, I'm helping to really kind of increase their income and their deal flow, and everybody wins. My
I
wife,
love
Sarah, yeah, she does the marketing, and she's one of those people that she makes things look easy. She can do things in seconds that literally would used to take me hours. And so she doesn't even spend a whole lot of time on that, but the time she does spend is she's skilled and it's targeted and it's just putting all these things together that people might see if they are looking at LinkedIn or they're looking at Instagram.
Okay, last question, totally out of the blue, but I always love to ask this of a guest. So you wake up tomorrow, you're in a city where you don't know anyone. You have the same skills you have today, but you have zero contacts, no database. What do you do in your first 90 days?
I love that question. I love that I had no idea it was coming too. Here's what I would do. I would, the Pickler, what's the big pickleball facility where people congregate? Like that's what I would do. I would go there. I would join some leagues. I would get to know people. I wouldn't talk about real estate for a while. I would just get to know people. I would start to meet people that I had similar interests with.
Yeah.
From there, I would stay in touch with those people. I'd figure out in that market, where do I want my niche to be? Who knows? Pick the market. Whatever's exciting to me, I would pick that niche. I would make the decision that I am going to be the person in this niche for somebody who wants to buy or sell real estate. I would start putting together a newsletter that really stands out. I would then start putting together short form content. I would then start putting together signature events. I'd invite my pickleball friends. I'd invite all the new friends I'm making adjacent to that. I'd invite even the people who are subscribing to my newsletter, maybe people who are following me on social media, to attend these events. I would do everything I'm doing now. I think it would take me a year
Sure.
to get it rolling, and I think in 2 or 3 years, it would be taken off.
Yeah, I I could have probably answered that for you with those exact answers, knowing you in this last hour. But I appreciate so much that you gave me exactly what I thought you were going to say, which is it's basically what I do today. And this brings us to the book, because the book is everything you also do today, getting to a million. So tell us what's in it and why should people read it?
Yeah, really, we break down the science of this with stories in a way that's fun and easy to absorb. I've been working on this project for 2 years now, a little over 2 years. And when I started, the book was just huge. I mean, it's just this huge, all of these pages. I worked relentlessly to get this down to 100 pages. What I heard from so many of my broker friends and people that I've coached, everyone is reading books, nobody's finishing books.
Right.
So my goal is I'm going to write a book that they're going to finish. I'm going to write a book that's going to keep them engaged. I'm going to write a book that takes these things that we're talking about on this podcast here, breaks them down into very specific action items to where they're going to do these things. They are prompted to do these things. I mean, specific steps. And then there's a certain part that's designed just to give to your social media calendar when you're ready to set it and forget it. So it can all happen in the background, like we're talking about. And we just really go into, it's 3 parts. We really go into the 3 M's: mobilize your people, strategic gatherings. What's your pickleball? Pickleball, again, cycling, mountain biking, gardening, hiking, running, cards, chess, happy hour at the new restaurant in town. What's your strategic gathering look like? Signature events. We go into the science of that, really how to do that, how to plan that. The science of it. Who do you want there? How do you have a few people with you and give them specific tasks to make sure the events go well? How do you make people feel welcome? How do you start small and then go big? Just very specific action items. Mobilize your people. From there, it moves on to making content for your dream clients. These things we're talking about, the specific science, it's called the simple newsletter, and that's an acronym, and that really goes into everything we've discussed and more. One thing we didn't talk about that I go into detail in the book is, how do you find this information that nobody else is finding? How do you be the person that reports on these things before it's in the newspaper? There are ways to do that that cost almost nothing. And every agent should be doing these things. So the simple acronym that is in the newsletter, that will give you this newsletter that stands out. We talk about how to then put the short form videos together, make content for your dream clients.
Yeah.
And then the 3rd M, multiply your impact. And that's where we bring somebody in to help you put this on autopilot. That's when you're ready, and get the weekly calendar going. So this just all takes off. Look, you can't be coordinating the gluten-free sandwiches at your signature event. You can't be fumbling around with every little post and when it's going to get scheduled, when it's going to go out. If you're going to be a top producer, you need to be out there putting deals together, building relationships, and really just, being that person in your market that your dream clients want to work with.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Gettingtoamillion.com is where you go to get on the wait list. It will also connect you with Greg directly on LinkedIn, which is his social media platform of choice. And just a quick plug for LinkedIn. Agents, do not ignore LinkedIn. This is a great resource. Agents are all over TikTok and Facebook and Instagram, and they ignore LinkedIn. So check out Greg on LinkedIn. He's got lots and lots of connections there, and he posts content there as well. So gettingtoamillion.com is where you can go to learn more about the book when it becomes available and connect with Greg on LinkedIn. Greg, on behalf of our audience, I want to thank you for your time today, your authenticity, your vulnerability, and just you showing up the way you showed up today was just incredible for our audience. So thank you. You're very honest and helpful and willing to serve. And I very much appreciate that in a guest. So on behalf of the audience, thank you. On behalf of Greg and myself, we want to thank you, the audience, for sticking around till the very end. Yeah. People don't finish books, but they do finish podcasts. So thank you for sticking around. Again, best way that you can help us, the way you can give us a thank you, send this episode over to someone else in your office that needs to hear this. Greg basically gave you the exact playbook you need to build your business with referral-based content or referrals exclusively and have fun along the way. And he's got a book coming out that'll break it down even further for you. But shoot this episode over to everybody in your office. That would help us out. We appreciate you. And I have some homework for everybody before the next episode. Here's what I want everybody listening to do. So I want you to text 5 people who you know well, not clients. These are people who actually know you. And I want you to ask them one question. If a friend of yours were buying a home, how would you describe what I do? Then read the answers without defending yourself. That's your invisibility score. Not next month, next week, this week. Do it. So again, text 5 people. If a friend of yours was buying a house, how would you describe what I do? This will give you great feedback on what your friends know about you and your business. Greg, thank you so much for your time and your energy. We will see everybody on the next episode. Thanks, Greg.
This is a blast. Thank you, DJ. You're awesome. Love your show.